And today we are going to play Faybell. Faybell is a storytelling cooperative game where the victory condition is if anybody is happy, we all win.
Yay! I'm already upset.
No, it's if anybody happy. I mean, if the majority of people are upset, but only one person is happy, we all still win, which might make us happier.
Yay!
It's kind of like a virtuous cycle, if you know what I mean.
Maybe Jason is happy when they are sad.
Maybe. I do tend to write my best music in traditionally sad keys.
Yeah, I think minor keys make me much happier.
Keys.
No, minor keys make me much happier than major keys. Yeah. Major keys are just bland.
Boring. There's no interest in the scale.
Yeah.
Let's start off with the intros. So this here is my table. And we've got Jason.
Hey again.
So Jason is an improvisational musician, as you might have deduced by the fact that they were playing music in an improvisational manner. And in fact, they are doing a PhD all about randomness and chance and aleatory style stuff.
Yeah, indeterminacy. I get to play games. I've actually used Faybell as a base of one of my scores, which if I had planned it, I would have put up the clip on YouTube so people could look at it afterwards. I may do that if I got time today. If I can find it, that's the key. Because I need to find it because it's for my PhD, so I hope I haven't lost it. But yeah, I used Faybell in a score for it, which was quite fun. And Bear's actually narrated it.
That is Jason with the JH t-shirt, unique in the world. Hey. And we've got Bez, who is actually named Bez legally.
Wee! I am. You signed my deed poll. So yeah, I should I introduce myself?
So Bez is a comedian and another improv artist, but formed a spoken comedy and play style thing rather than music necessarily.
I want to get into improvised songs. So my dream is to do stand-up sets with a guitar doing songs. That's what I'm working towards doing, because then I don't have to prepare anything in advance and it'll be great.
Improvised opera?
No, I hate opera. It's awful. Occasionally it's okay, but it's I'm not a big fan. There's not enough plot, too much drama, lots of very you can't understand the words.
I think soap opera is named very aptly. I think that's where the origin comes from. I think.
It's a good point, actually.
Because both Shakespeare and opera are basically EastEnders, Emmerdale, Coronation Street, just for the fancy people.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the same thing.
Also, when I started getting into football, I realised football is basically just a soap opera, and that's why people like it. It's really interesting, actually. But yeah, I can't. Well, it's just sort of it's a whole minefield, but it's quite fun.
If you want to do improvised songs, get some random bits of material. I've sung from a window at a festival from an Angel Delight packet. So
wow, that's great. So what, you just sang the instructions? Well, I was thinking to try and get people to sing this song to the tune of another, like I'm sorry I haven't a clue. But that sounds fun, like reading random stuff they've got in their bag to a song, to a tune. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you know the song well enough. But these are two people, Jason and Bez, and if I let them, they would just fill the entire hour with plans of how to improvise. Let me put a kibosh in it, and let me introduce the final person, which is myself, Bez. And so, legally, my name is Behrouz Bahman Shahiri, but my given name is Bez. to the extent where if you look at the let's see if I can. Yeah, here's the Baltic version again. So it's Behruz Bez Shahriari. Does that show up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Hey, there you can see it big. Okay, and yeah, it's even on this book. Yay.
Hey.
Behruz Bez Shahriari.
Which I have to say, I really enjoyed Flower Power.
Flowers over Towers.
Flowers over Towers.
Is that a game? This is my favourite nightclub in Germany, Flower Power.
No, it's Flower over Towers.
Yeah, so that was what we played yesterday, where flowers were taking over the abandoned towers. And today we are playing Faybell. Now, this is the original rule card for Faybell, because originally all the rules came on little cards.
Which I did for Music Hell, and then you redesigned it.
You designed it? Cool.
No, but yeah, Bez designed it. I based the Music Hell game instructions. My limitation was that they were on cards, like the original Wibble. And then Bez decided to redesign and put it on sheets. I was like, well, that would have been easier.
Cool.
Yeah, so just to clarify for people who are a little bit lost, Jason did do a musical version where instead of doing story snippets and telling stories, that would happen, but then musicians would give little snippets of musical improv whenever their things appeared.
Oh, cool.
So let's get stuck into it. And let me give a quick overview, if I may, of the game of Faybell. Now, the way this is going to work, we start off with the deck. Then one at a time, we're going to flip over a card and decide what this thing is. It could be a time capsule, and this would happen in the game. Next, we would decide that this is, for example, a noun zealot, someone who's very into their nouns. And maybe the noun zealot comes before the time capsule, or maybe it comes afterwards. You decide a sort of timeline. Finally, maybe you've got a stupendous X-Men. So I don't know which one of the X-Men it is. Maybe it's Wolverine. We'll decide when we get there.
Wolverine's not stupendous.
Wherever we want. Maybe the time capsule happens at the end of the story, so it's not really a time traveling story. Anyway, so now someone would say the first sentence of the story, not necessarily using one of these, and then they flip over a card, choose a word starting with one of these letters as an obligation for the next person to use. So not only are you influencing the story by giving your own little snippets, but you're also giving a word that the next person has to use. Now, people keep giving their own sentence, giving a word for the next person, and going forth. At some point, we are going to use the noun zealot, and then we would carry on talking about the noun zealot until suddenly the stupendous X-Man comes into the story, and then we carry on, and then there's a time capsule, and then we carry on until eventually we come to a satisfying end, and then suddenly, to finish off the game, the end rules are that someone has to use all three story elements and then finish off by saying the end.
Yeah, but not necessarily in the order they've originally appeared in.
That is a very quick overview, but I will go over the rules as we go forward. But does that give you a taste of what's going to happen, Bez?
Yes, thank you.
I think
Excellent.
Bez is the perfect person to have on for Faybell.
We'll see. It's a lot of pressure. But so can I just clarify, when we're giving the next person a word, is that just based on one of the two letters?
Correct. So the word that you give the next person starts with either of those two letters.
Yeah.
So you could do something like maybe the name of a character that's already been introduced because you want them to continue talking about the character. Or maybe you want to throw in a wrench, figuratively. I mean, you could just say the word wrench.
Yeah.
And make sure that there is a wrench in the story. Or you could say hippopotamus because you want there to be a random hippo.
Perfect.
Now let's start in this order, if that's okay.
That makes sense.
Bez, Jason, Bez. So I will go with a northern dinosaur. A dinosaur who comes from the north. So this is my story element.
Raw.
This will definitely happen in the story. Now, Jason, what
Raw.
will be your story element?
Something that is very ostentatious.
It doesn't need to go in in the top
does
then
it?
bottom.
Oh, that's a rule that I forgot. Okay, so an ostentatious vase.
Okay, an ostentatious vase. And should we have the vase before or after?
After.
Okay. And finally, Bez.
Roman dinosaur.
A Roman dinosaur.
And I want that at the beginning.
Okay, so we start off with a Roman dinosaur. Then we talk about a different dinosaur that's from a bit further up north. And then we've got a vase that's particularly ostentatious. An ostentatious vase, if you will. Now, I start off, sorry, let me just control Q. So, once upon a time, our story started. In fact, our story started today with Bez talking about the times that happened many years ago when Caesar was but a twinkle in their mum's eye. And my word for you is injustice.
Ooh. Okay. So many years ago, what people don't really know is that Caesar's mum was just as obsessed with power as Caesar would become. She would raid the lands and destroy all the houses of the Gauls and all the other citizens that were not Roman. Romans were the best, of course. This was a great injustice, huge injustice, thought the Gauls. Ferocious.
Now, it was difficult for little Caesar when he was growing up to have such a ferocious mother who was obsessed with, spreading the Roman propaganda everywhere. But he was into other things apart from hiding from his mum. So he used to explore quite a lot. So one day he decided to go kind of outside the city walls and see what he could find in the countryside. My word for you is snake.
So, having ventured into the countryside, Julius Caesar saw some strange creatures. Julius Caesar saw a snake slithering through the grass, but this snake was not a modern snake. It had little legs, and it was just a baby. It was actually going to grow up to be somewhat like a diplodocus. Somehow it had been transplanted into the Roman Empire. You might say it was a Roman dinosaur. And Julius Caesar just marveled at this creature, realizing that there were more wonders than they could behold. Marvelous.
Marvelous. Caesar looked at this marvelous creature and thought, I could use this Roman dinosaur to take over Scotland. One of the few places that we've struggled to get hold of. Scotland will be ours with this Roman dinosaur. And possibly there's a teeny tiny chance that I'll find another dinosaur, a bit more north, northern dinosaurs, say. Tyrannical.
Julius Caesar little Caesar had a best friend called Derek. And so he went off and spoke to Derek about his plans to travel to Scotland. But Derek was a bit worried about Caesar's, safety in traveling all the way to Scotland, where they had such terrifying cities such as Glasgow, and said, I think the dinosaur you've seen, the little snake creature, that they're very cute, but I think the northern dinosaurs might be a bit tyrannical. So I think you'd better bring an army of people with you to protect you. And so my word for you is dangerous.
So heading up into the dangerous lands of the north, searching for another, this was during the much overlooked kind of teenage years of Julius Caesar. So Julius Caesar, quite the adventure, got on ships and spent days going up to Iceland and going up even further up, dressed in warm furs and clothes, and thinking, surely I could brave these dangerous, scary times. But there was no dinosaur to be found. Crocodile.
Now, what those of you don't know is that all throughout Scotland, years ago, it was much warmer. So you didn't get too much snow. It was more swampy. So Julius Caesar was tramping through these, squish, 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 that's more, through these swamps. And he saw something. It was large. Oh, is this the northern dinosaur? It was large. It was scaly. It had ferocious teeth. It was a crocodile. A common crocodile. Your word is hangover.
Hangover. Now, Caesar had run on his adventures to Scotland and the north and Iceland and on his adventures very quickly. And Derek his friends, had been meaning to go with Caesar, but kind of assumed Caesar would act like a normal human and, plan his journey for like a week at least, maybe ask Derek to come with him. But yeah, Derek had been out drinking and had a massive hangover the next day. So by the time he went to call on Caesar and his mum said that Caesar was out, Caesar had been long gone for at least 12 hours. So so Derek decided to go off and try and find Caesar and find out what was going on. Which one is my one? That one, yeah. So my word for you is salty. What does that mean?
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying,
Okay, could you put another card down? So I wasn't sure if that... Okay.
Oh, no, that's just me preparing for the next card. Cool. So, oh my gosh, Derek was feeling quite cross with Caesar. You could say they were a bit salty about this. And this, really led to the fundamental schism and the wars that would epitomize the Roman Empire. The never-ending rage. It's all emerged from Caesar not waiting for Derek to get over their hangover. If only Caesar had, waited a little bit longer, if only Caesar had been a bit more thoughtful, then Derek, wouldn't have been imbued with such rage. And, the life wouldn't have followed this pattern of warmongering and everything. And imagine all the peace on earth that we could have had. But instead, all there was salt in the wounds. Old.
Now, yes, this war went on for, I would say eons, but that's a bit long. Certainly their whole life. But the biggest trigger, not just the fact that Julius Caesar had left without his friend on this siege of power over Scotland and Iceland and all the northern lands in the hopes to find this northern dinosaur. No, it started even more so when Derek went into Julius's room, stole stuff, broke his bed, and smashed his ostentatious vase. He was salty, very, very salty. Warmonger. Let's keep it themed.
No, Caesar was nearing the end of his life now, and he's been very battered and bruised, not only by all the wars he'd been in, but by this massive breakdown in friendship and communication between him and his best buddy Derek, his only real friend in his whole life. And look at his mum. He wasn't person, and that the last straw 50 years ago was when Derek had smashed his favorite ostentatious vase that his mum had bought him in a fit of happiness one day. It was the only memory really that he had of her. But Caesar was mulling over his life and thought, well, I did meet a Roman dinosaur. I didn't meet a northern dinosaur. But you know what? My life was a solid 5 out of 10, so I'm happy. And then he died. The end.
You could say that Derek was a backstabber.
And so, thank you, Daz, and thank you, Nosewort, for joining us. And this was a story about... Sorry, let me change to this. So that was a rendition of Faybell. Now, what I thought we might try doing is maybe for next time we would play again, but then let people from the audience choose words for the restrictions.
Ah.
How does that sound?
Yeah.
I like it.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let me start at this.
We're in a parallel world.
Okay. Should we let people in the chat choose the story elements as well?
Sure.
Yeah, let's go on.
Okay, so AW, feel free to make suggestions for something that starts with A and then a second word that starts with W. What I find helps is if you go adjective, noun.
Yeah.
You could also go adverb, verb. Like
an angry warhorse, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying. Like you could say.
Adventurous warthog.
Ooh.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay,
we got it.
Okay, so the next one, T or TD. What should come before or after the adventurous warthog?
Can I just say, no dinosaurs?
Yeah, you want to have something slightly different.
Oh, yeah.
So there could be a bit of a jungle theme with adventurous warthog. There could be treacherous Derek.
I think someone wants like a second part.
Let me see. Let me wait a few seconds to see if Daz from Facebook has any ideas. Because I'm just aware that there's quite... Oh, Bez lost her signal. Oh gosh, this is the problem with internet, isn't it?
That's why I brought a cable.
As good as, you know, I'm happy to say that the rate of people suddenly being taken ill and collapsing is lower than the number of people whose internet drops out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm very glad of that. I mean, this is I'm so glad I left early Kids Catechism, which is sad because I do enjoy Kids Catechism. and went out and queued for a good 30 minutes to go and pick up a cable and got my husband to drill a hole into my brother's bedroom so I could connect to his router. Nice and stable.
Hey, Bez is back.
Hey!
I
You
am
can
on
turn
my
your
phone.
phone
So we got
sideways.
treacherous
that way.
Derek. Come on, Daz. Have you got anything? TD?
What have we got? I can't see the comments now. Have we got other? So did we go with Adventurous Warthog?
Oh, this is definitely the Adventurous Warthog. We're just thinking about TD. And we
Perfect.
were
Let's see if I can
just
turn
going to give... and
Right,
this
that
is your
just
first
me.
time playing, Bez, right?
I think so.
Great.
I think we played, your game that you've never sold that's got millions of cards where you have to do really, really quick sentences in quick succession.
Oh, you mean blether?
Here.
Blether.
You blether, a Scottish word meaning to... I can't remember it.
To talk at
It's
length and
really-
fastly without necessarily making very much sense, using as many word cards as possible as you spouts a stream of consciousness, and the name goes on for like 2,000.
It's the best game.
It's so... I'm really sad that that it's not quite possible, not yet possible to publish, because it's just
I think that
so
makes it
much
more
work.
cool because it's like it's like a play. You can only do it at certain times. It's not the fact that it's not easily available. Oh no, I think I was about to join StreamYard normally on my computer, but maybe I should stick on my phone.
Okay,
Okay,
it works fine there. So we'll have treacherous. We'll have treacherous
dungeon.
Derek if that's
no.
what Nosewort wants.
Nosewater's come up with saying dungeon, a treacherous dungeon.
I don't really mind.
Maybe
I vote for dungeon.
Oh no.
That'll start to sound like one of the experimental concerts.
It should be okay now. I've turned off my volume, so I think I'll stay on my phone, but I just quite like to keep the computer one on so I can just see what the comments are, if that's okay, because I can't see the comments on my phone, so I can watch it on my laptop, but use the mic. Yeah.
Okay.
Are we going with? Let's go with a dungeon.
Before or after? I think after.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it
Is
after.
it a treacherous dungeon?
Yeah.
And the final card is EK. So you've got an adventurous warthog, a treacherous dungeon, and something EK. This is actually one of my favourite cards for this game because there's a surprisingly large number of words starting with the K, and some really emotional words.
Oh my gosh! I didn't know you could be so attached to a card with 2 letters on. That's exciting.
I mean, I'm just sad that JH doesn't exist. But I do like that there is actually an L card in the L deck.
Oh yeah, that's cute. Okay,
K has to be
kitten. Has to be kitten.
So we could have evil kitten. We could have energetic kitten, like a bundle of energy. We could have
exciting, but I feel like we should have like emotional because you kept talking about emotions.
Envious kitten.
Oh, it could have envious. Yeah, enormous. That's good. I like that.
Evil kitten.
That
just reminds me of Emperor's New Groove.
Okay, enormous kitten. And is it in space 1, 2, or 3? So does it go before the adventurous warthog?
Oh, we've got elegant now as a suggestion.
I like enormous. I don't know.
Let's go.
I quite like enormous because it's like.
Let's go with enormous kitten.
Can we have that first?
1, 2. Okay.
At the start, in the middle, or at the end.
One vote for at the start.
One vote for at the end.
Because I'll just out of principle vote for in the middle and let's know what if they want. And unless they have no preference, in which case I would pick something arbitrarily.
Okay, so pick something arbitrarily.
Okay, so let's go with. Yes. So we've got an adventurous warthog.
Just because they named Bez, isn't it? It's because they're named Bez. Bez isn't ganging up on the Jasons.
Don't fall for it, Bez.
An enormous kitten, an adventurous warthog, and a treacherous dungeon. Okay, let's start with a different person. Let's start with Bez instead of Bez.
Like I said,
That
like
sounds
I
great,
said,
Bez.
just
I
stop.
like your thinking, Bez.
Yes, Bez.
There was once a lovely little dragon called Bez who was wandering around their castle looking for an adventure. Am I choosing or are we waiting for suggestions?
You're choosing a word for me.
Cool.
Oh, wait. Oh, no,
Oh, was
wait.
it? Yeah.
We
No,
were
wait.
going to... Maybe I
Yeah.
should put the cards down earlier so that knows
Yeah.
what
Yes.
to choose.
Cool. Well, we'll see. I'll think of something. Angry.
So choose a word.
Angry. So
Mhm.
whilst...
Oh, we've got it. We've got
Oh no,
lullaby.
it knows what's
my
now got
bit.
lullaby, so we could do lullaby.
Okay. And we'll have the next cards here, just so that this is the one that chat can consider, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So, the dragon was a big fan of wandering through dungeons and getting all tough and being adventurous, but it was also a fan of gentle things, like lullabies. And so it took with itself a little harp so that it could have a little bit of fun whilst it was on the adventure. And so it started walking and then stopped for a moment to play the harp. And then it started walking and stopped for a moment to play the harp. And it did a bit more playing than it did walking. And so after a day, it had walked almost 100 meters and gotten halfway to the dungeon. Now, what's the next word?
What's the next word? Knows what?
Rolling.
Now, these dungeons were situated in these rolling hills, just rolled and rolled over the landscape. To the point, some of them were so high they were almost mountains, but they were round enough to be hills. Now, 100 meters is not far, you would think. However, this dragon wasn't exactly a tall dragon. In fact, think of a character from a large animation company that put out a movie in the 90s that was red and had yellow and was obsessed with dishonor and cows. It was about that size of a dragon. So 100 meters is pretty far if you think about it. I shan't name it because it might be copyright striked. So 100 meters is quite far, and this harp wasn't exactly relative size. This was a large harp. So they were singing and walking and singing and walking. And the next word is.
So, I genuinely don't know this thing. What kind of size are we talking?
Enigmatic.
Okay.
Say hey hi.
I think I know which dragon you're talking about, but I have no idea.
Dishonor you, dishonor your cow.
What film is it?
Mulan.
Oh, it is Mulan. Okay, there we go. I was like, I know there's a dragon, but I couldn't place which film it was in. Cool, yeah. Is it my go?
Okay.
Whose go is it?
Yes.
It's my go.
So your word is enigmatic.
My word is enigmatic. So despite being tiny and having a very, very large harp and not really being able to walk very far, Dragon Bez was very enigmatic and as a result had lots of friends. And you might think it would be sensible for Dragon Bez to have small friends to chat to, so that they didn't have to crane their necks by leaning over. But actually, Dragon Bears really liked having really giant friends. So, for example, there was Nancy, the enormous kitten from next door, who would frequently come and talk to Bez about all her drama in her love life.
So what's our next word? E or L?
The old card.
Wasn't that the enigmatic one, or was that a different one?
No, enigmatic
Right.
was the E or
Cool.
M.
Yeah.
So I just kind of put it over there to show that.
You know, I love EL. That is such a cool.
Lumpy.
Lumpy.
Okay, well, whilst the enormous kitten, which was basically the size of Glasgow, and I don't mean Glasgow, the Australian city, although I don't know exactly what size that is. I mean Glasgow, the Scottish city. To be fair, it might be the same exact size, but it was almost exactly the size of Glasgow. And I should say that this was back in the old days, when Glasgow used to be covered by a volcano. Because not many people realise this, but Glasgow's kind of got a bit of a dip where you can sort of see the lumpy bits of this enormous kitten that used to lie across this entire place. I mean, it was a strange thing, this kitten, Nancy, who had been born and always stayed as a kitten, but instead of developing into a cat, just over the years, just grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and exponentially so, until they were literally the size of Glasgow. So, you know, our friend Bez the dragon was just going along, playing this music and climbing up and down the harp strings and twanging along, playing music, not realizing that there was, you know, a dungeon which they still hadn't gotten to quite yet, because just managing to make their way over Lumpy Nancy was an adventure in and of itself.
Lumpy Nancy.
So, A or M? Mine.
A
I'm
mine.
going into a mine, apparently.
Okay. So, Bez has finally managed to get about 150 meters by now. We're not talking about height, because that would be huge. We're talking about distance from home to the place. When Nancy just moved her paw, and moved it over, and revealed the mine shaft that would lead into the dungeon. As she did so, this adventurous warthog bounded out and started attacking poor Nancy. The adventurous warthog had mistaken from all the myths of this giant kitten that created the dip of Glasgow that this was an evil kitten, not just an enormous kitten. And Nancy was very nice. Now, of course, a warthog tusks to most people would be pretty damaging, but considering that Nancy was the size of Glasgow, it was more like if you were little tiny pinpricks. It's just slightly irritating. So Nancy kind of just kicked her paw, and the adventurous warthog just went Team Rocket style over the rolling hills. Which, of course, Bez was a bit annoyed about.
Lift.
So Bez did what they always did in these sorts of situations, and they whistled for one of their favourite friends, Bernie the seagull, and asked Bernie for a lift to somewhere less annoying.
Is that the end of your sentence?
That is.
Oh yeah, I don't tend to follow the sentence rule. I just follow when I feel my bit of story is finished. I break that.
Yeah, I mean, the
Do you want me
one
to continue?
sentence is kind of,
Okay.
you know, there can be
Cool.
lots of semicolons in the middle.
Semicolons,
Okay.
yeah, commas, colons.
And okay, semicolon. As you will all know from reading the previous books of Bez's adventures, one of Bez's favourite places to hang out was in Nancy's library, because Bez really loved trying to climb inside the books and found it really hilarious, having the books fall on top of them.
Okay, so now underground is my word. Okay, so the seagull flew away from this treacherous dungeon, which Bez decided, it had fancied going to, but it kind of changed its mind. Away from the enormous kitten. And then suddenly dropped Bez. And Bez was like, oh my god, what's going on? I'm falling down. I'm like, whoa, there's like 100 meters down. And then really being scared, putting the harp below it, making sure that the harp would land first. And the harp did indeed manage to suffer most of the damage from the impact. It smashed, but that's absorbed a good bit of the shock. And so Bez managed to land relatively unscathed. Don't try this at home, kids. Don't always assume that your harp is going to be as useful as a parachute. But Bez managed to land down without any serious injury. But there was still some pressure, and so boom, Bez went down through a badger hole. Until Bez was underground. Bez the dragon. Oof. Scary times for Bez indeed. Away from Kitten, away from the adventurous warthog, away from the treacherous dungeon. But what will Bez encounter next? So, because Nosewort's taking... Oh, we've got Nosewort.
Nosewort.
Okay. That's the word.
Bez stood there for a second. Just taking in the darkness, trying to let their eyes readjust when they heard this. Yeah, there is that. That's what I thought as well. When they heard this. Heard this noise, it shook the whole cave. Was it a cave? It kind of shook. Just tiptoed towards the sound. He might as well. He's on an adventure. Just tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. Oh no! It's the great Nosewort.
Nosewort has emerged. Charismatic.
You're trying to save your character, Nosewort. With a name like that, I'm sorry.
The reason that Bez was so impressed with Nosewort is because, as we all know from the beginning of the story, Bez himself was a very charismatic individual. And the only person known to be more charismatic than Bez was indeed the mighty Nosewort. Bez had only heard tales of Nosewort's charisma brought to him by their favourite homing pigeon. But to finally meet Nosewort was both a real treat, but also terrifying, because what if Nosewort was more charismatic than Bez? How would Bez cope? Bez was having great internal conflict whilst trying to act incredibly cool and exciting, saying to Nosewort, so it's a nice cave you've got here, Nosewort. Do you come here often?
Faybell. Oh wow! This story's
just getting better.
Self-referential. So, Bez the dragon and Nosewort the mighty beast decided that they would spend a little bit of time playing Faybell, and Bez the dragon considered everything that had happened. They told Nosewort about the enormous kitten and how, because the kitten was literally growing at an exponential rate, within 20 years it would literally be the size of the planet if it continued at its current rate, which was clearly problematic. And it talked about the adventurous warthog who had been flung off by the kitten the size of Glasgow, it talks of the treacherous dungeon, which, if only they had a time that they could go to it together. So Nosewort and Bez went over, and magically Nosewort managed to fix the enormous kitten by giving it some size regulating pills. So the kitten could be the size that it should be. The adventurous warthog, it went on many more adventures, and it didn't always get knocked away by the kitten's paw. But for the record, it was not so unhappy about that. That would be a story it would tell its children for many a day. And Nosewort and Bez the dragon went through the treacherous dungeon, and that is where they whiled away most of their twilight years. The end.
That was beautiful, Bez.
Thank you, Bez. So, and thank you, Nosewort, for joining in with the thing. That was actually a fun way. Should we have one quick thing to finish off, or should we stop it now?
I quite like to have a third one.
What's the quick thing? Oh, did you mean Faybell? I thought you meant like a random improv game.
I just meant playing again and maybe playing just really quickly.
Yeah, one word only.
Actually, one sentence.
Yeah, no, just actually one sentence. Yeah, I don't mind trying to do speed, Faybell.
Okay, so we're just going to keep the do the things ourselves, but
Cool.
hopefully
I think
this will.
if we can do speed Fable, we should have two. Is there a sentence? We should have 2 words each, so that we can.
That's
add the thing
harder.
around
I think that's harder. That'll make it take longer because
I've had stories go round.
So remember, you've got to have the thing. Just do one sentence each.
Yeah, it'll be good. We can try it with 2 cards, but I think that might slow it down a little bit. But we can try it with 2 cards just for fun.
We'll do the. If it's okay, Jason, I'd like to do it with 3 cards as normal.
Yeah, that's fine.
We can have the 2 cards as we were doing for Nosewort, just so that we can see not only what's the one we're working on, but also think about the word for the next person at the same time.
Yeah, no. Just
Cool.
a suggestion.
So let's start with Jason this time.
So this is going to be a nasty horse.
Bez.
A rude waiter.
And where does that happen?
After the nasty horse.
A nasty horse, a rude waiter, and I thought of a really. I'm trying to keep this child friendly.
No, I say. Can you hear me okay? Should I move this?
Never-ending dream. Okay.
Oh, I know what the twist might be.
Okay, let's put it in the middle, because that's. Yeah, I don't want this to just be, this is a dream and that's the twist. That's boring. Okay, so Jason, you start. This is what restriction you've got. This is what you're going to give to the next person.
The scene opens. Pans forward. A grumpy horse. A nasty horse. Okay.
What's your word for Bez?
I'm trying to think. I can't think words.
Horse?
Orange.
Orange. Okay, Bez.
The scene pans again to an orange Labrador slurping all over a puddle. Rhubarb.
The Labrador is slurping up sick that has been ejected out of someone's mouth. Vomit with bits of rhubarb in it. Wicked.
Child friendly, my foot.
It's disgusting, but it's still child friendly.
I'm joking.
What's the word, Bez?
It's you, Jason.
No, you got to
What's
choose
the
a
word?
word, Jason.
I said wicked.
Okay.
Oh, so I was looking at the other wicked. The scene pans back to the nasty horse, who thought what a wicked Labrador this is to slurp up vomit. And the word is, sorry, it flipped over and I was thinking, the word is ugly.
That Labrador is so ugly as well as gross, said the nasty horse. I'm gonna give that Labrador a piece of my mind. And
Hello?
That's the word.
And is the word. Sorry. The Labrador and the horse starts to have an enormous argument. Lying.
Until the Labrador has been knocked unconscious and is lying on the ground and enters a never-ending dream. Underworld.
not just any dream, but a nightmare in which the Labrador was being chased by the nasty horse through the underground into a terrifying restaurant. Paper.
Upon a big piece of paper, a poster, if you will, it explains that the only way to emerge from the underworld, to gain your life back, is to finish a meal. Bowl.
However, upon gazing through the window of the restaurant, the Labrador noticed that these bowls were not bowls. They were bowls! Big bowls! Almost never ending. Or so they suspected. Carrot.
So the nasty no, sorry. So the orange Labrador was like, I'm not going to fall for these tricks. I'm not going to eat out of a bowl. I'm going to ask for a carrot on a plate. That'll show them. Indigestion.
After speaking to an extremely rude waiter who had a long back and forth saying that, no, please, we would insist that you get a bowl. And then the orange Labrador says, no, please just put it on a plate. And after an extremely long argument with this rude waiter, the Labrador took one bite of the carrot and immediately suffered indigestion. Ow.
Owl. Ow or owl?
Ow. Pain.
Ow. Ah! Ow! Ow! Oh, what are you doing to me? This is horrible! Screamed the Labrador. The rude waiter just chuckled. You thought you could win. You thought you could win this game? Oh, after all this time, the nasty horse kicking me unconscious. I can't remember what ND stood for. And now I'm thrown into this never-ending nightmare, this dream, if you will. And now you, very rude, nasty, cruel waiter. And with that, we fade into blackness.
Ooh. What?
The end.
Oh, wow.
I like telling it with the panning and the film shots. That was quite fun as a structure.
I was getting sick of Once Upon a Time.
No, but I think it's nice because it enables you to talk about different things, and it sort of, I don't know, it helps me visualize it better.
Okay. Oh,
It's fun.
And
that was
so
fun. That was different.
that is Faybell. That is a cooperative storytelling activity. The rules are available for free. The deck, if you want to get the print and play version, it's what will become of the Orange Labrador? Find out next time in the Return of the Mood. Later.
Amazing. Amazing. Return of the Rude. That is such a fun title. No, but of the Rude Waiter, but yeah. Oh, we have to do that.
We had to wait for that last word.
We did. But Return of the Rude Waiter, like that's such a cool name for a movie, right?
That actually sounds like an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, should we make it? Should we improvise it?
We can have another game of
Sure,
Fable.
I mean, that was a lot of fun. I would be up for doing that at some point again. That worked surprisingly well. I do want to kind of tell people where they can buy the thing, because that is part of the reason why I'm doing these streams.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want, go to my website, which is stuffbybez.com. And from my website, you will be able to find my shop, and there is also my mailing list. I would suggest, if you want to play it right now, just you can get a really, really bad version for free on Board Game Geek. You can pay me 50 pence if you think it's worth at least that much. And on the Big Cartel page, which is... I should actually pop up my links, shouldn't I? Sorry about this. While I'm looking for links, Jason, when did you first play this game?
When I first played this game? Oh, that was a while back now, actually, I'm thinking. First, I think 2016 or 17. It was definitely a long time ago, and it was at Dragon Meet. I vaguely remember. And yeah, I also remember, I think one of the most memorable stories I've had was with, I was demoing for Dad and his son. And suddenly we had Genghis Khan in there, and the kid decided to introduce a transphobic Cyberman. If you think about it, Cybermen would be, because they only have one gender, unless you follow the Torchwood version. So you would think it was just this amazing story of he was a massive Hoovian, and I did not plan it. I did not bring in Doctor Who. It was the sun, and he just and Genghis Khan killed this Cyberman with the help of the Doctor, and I was like, this is brilliant. It was just. Yeah, and we kind of broke the rules. We made our own little table rules because it was quite quiet at that time, and they just kept adding cards to add characters, and because you can create a lot of house rules for some of these games, add like cards to just pull on the story.
I mean, yeah, ultimately the rules are just there to be a structure for you to. I mean, as long as everyone agrees, I think that for me it's important that everyone at the table agrees. Okay, we're going to change this, and so everyone knows the structure of what you're doing. But once you've got that structure, you can change the structure, but even within the same structure, you can go so many different ways, as you just saw with the 2 stories we told. Sorry, 3 stories we told.
Yeah, 3. The son he wanted another game, and then he went, I want to continue the story, so we just added the elements. That's how it got in. So it's kind of an unofficial thing. If people want to continue the story, they can. But yeah, it was
Bye,
really,
Nosewort.
really
It's lovely to see you.
Bye, Nosewort. Enjoy
Thanks
the
for your
dungeon.
comments.
So yeah, it was lovely to see you, and just to say, join my mailing list, please, which I put the link to in the comments. That is the best way to stay involved. I only mail out about every 4 weeks, which I'm planning to do more regularly, because Chris is going to start helping me write and gets on top of that. It feels like, rather than saying once a month, every 4 weeks, it's kind of okay. Weekly cycles are slightly easier, if you know what I mean.
Do you have a link to just where people can buy stuff that you've made?
So if you want to just buy stuff, then you would go to Stuff by Bez, as it's coming in just a minute. stuffbybez.bigcartel.com. That's where you can buy stuff. But just to say, this deck and this deck are out of print currently. But I am planning to have a new categorical deck, but you can buy the print and play there. There's twitter.com/stuffbybez where you can, instagram.com/stuffbybez for pictures, twitch.tv/stuffbybez for streams, and facebook.com/thingsbybez is a thing, and stuffbybez@gmail.com is where you can email me, and I'm always happy to answer questions. And also stuffbybez.com/ you can type in ELL. So stuffbybez.com/L will take you currently to just a repository of all the rules. It's just a Google document right now, but I'm planning to make that a lot better over the next year. That's kind of I already talked about this morning, but categorical is going to be functionally identical, just with letters that look a little bit more like this. So it's going to be like all the colors of the rainbow. It's going to be like purple and greenish blue and orange and red, kind of all mixed in like that. I don't know if you
Red
can...
and yellow and pink and green,
Yay.
purple and orange and blue. I can sing the rainbow. I can
I
sing
can
the
sing a
rainbow. You can sing the
rainbow.
rainbow too.
I can sing a rainbow too.
Rainbow too.
Love that song.
So,
it really annoyed me as a kid though,
um,
because it was out of order.
Doesn't matter. That's what I use when people try and tell me there are other colours. I'm like, is it in the rainbow song? No, so it's not a colour.
It's a gradient.
Red,
Is it
That'd be a
orange,
long
magenta,
song.
fuchsia? What are they? They're not in the
maybe
rainbow
a little
song.
bit more green, just at the
Is it
top
red?
of the...
Pink? They're the only two colours I'll accept. Sorry.
Do you know
Yeah.
orange wasn't a
I mean,
colour
there's a
until they
touch of
discovered
pink
the orange?
there.
What's that?
The orange wasn't a name for a colour until they discovered the orange. The colour orange was actually named after the fruit orange. It used to be called yellow red or red yellow
Oh, that's cute.
or reddish yellow or
Aw,
yellowish red.
That's really
Yeah. It's a
adorable.
fact I learned like last night while trolling through YouTube.
Well, orange isn't a primary colour, isn't it? The primary colours are yellow, blue, and
No,
red.
No.
So the primary colours are either CMY, so cyan, magenta, and
Yeah, I
yellow.
don't accept those as colours because they're not in the rainbow song. So you need to explain it to me in colours that are in the rainbow song.
So if you look at light, the rainbow,
Okay, but in
light-
school, the primary colours are they not yellow, blue, and red? Are they
Yes,
not?
No,
but
that's
as
a
we've
lie.
discovered, school teachers.
Sure. Okay, I'm just checking that
falsehoods.
I'm not misremembering that. Now you can educate me, and I'll tell you that those colours aren't real.
Okay.
Educate.
So
Don't approximate.
if you're talking about, there's two color models. One is the additive color model, where it's paint, and then the other one is the subtractive color model. So I think every time you put down paint, you're subtracting from part of the light. So it turns, the more paint you put down, the more layers you put down, it's going to go from white to black. Whereas the other way is the additive, which is different types of light. Now, if you want to have the additive color model, it's RGB, which is why monitors are red, green, and blue. Because red and green combine to make yellow. Yellow is not a primary color in that model. Conversely, if you're talking about paint, then sure, let's call magenta pink because it's pretty much pink. And there's a greenish blue. But it can't be green or everything will be off. It can't be blue or everything got... It has to be more of a cyan, like that kind of color. That cyan there. It's kind of like a greenish blue. So CMY, cyan, magenta, and yellow.
You learn so much on these streams.
Anyway,
You're just making notes, Bez.
Can we do a telly show, Learning with Bez?
I hope that for anyone who's been watching this, I hope this has been enjoyable. I have had a lot of fun playing Faybell with you two. Tell me, Bez, why do you... I'd like you to compliment Faybell, starting with either of you, Anthony.
I mean, I had a great time, and despite Jason's cynicism, I feel like Jason had a great time too. Jason did look very happy at the end of each game, even if he was miserable inside. So, you know, I enjoyed seeing Jason happy.
That's my life. Happy on the outside, miserable on the inside.
I enjoyed Bez being happy. I enjoyed Bez getting Glasgow into every story. I thought that was impressive.
Every story.
No, I think I got Glasgow.
First.
I put Glasgow into the first story. You put Glasgow into the second story. We didn't have it in the last story, but it's still an impressive amount of references to Glasgow, even though not directly relevant to any story. And yeah, I just had a lot of fun. I'm glad that we managed to set 2 stories in the medieval/Roman periods because they are fun periods. And
my favorite story was the last one with the rude waiter and having to finish your meal to get out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason that I like the game is that with any set of restrictions, you are going to come up against things that you would not have expected.
Exactly.
It's going to push your mind down different ways. Yeah. I would never have told a story about a never-ending, meal that you need to eat to come back from the afterlife. But, because there were 3 of us, we were pushing it down different directions, because we were, coming up with things spurned on by not only what we started with, but also these words that we are obligated to use on the next turn. It just really pushes you down in interesting ways. And I'm proud of it, I guess.
No, I think it's brilliant because I often play the game with my family where we all just say a sentence, but it always descends into nonsense. So it's really nice having a structure where we kind of all have a vague idea of where it's going. I don't know, it just feels a lot more detailed, interesting, like you care more about the characters, you can remember things a little bit better. It's really good because it's really difficult to have a story that makes sense if you don't have any structure. Like it always ends up with people not listening or getting confused or talking about something completely different and ends up in a massive fast and everyone shouting at each other.
I mean, it started off, I think there was a while when we had, okay, this is a character, this is a location, this is approximately what they're doing. But then the next step was, okay, what if they're just things and this is like a timeline? And then you get to choose things. And then it started off with like 5 things on the timeline, but that was too much. Because with 5 things on the timeline, you start forgetting things, especially if you've had a drink or 2. And then we went with 4, and it was 4 for quite a while. And it's only been in lockdown, maybe, especially on the stream, you want to have it a bit shorter, that we were like, yeah, let's go with 3. And I would still suggest 4 if people are like, oh, should we play with 3 or should we play with 4? I would suggest if you are going to pick one or the other, I would probably go with 4. But if everyone knows, as long as you remind everyone, you don't need to rush through everything. You just kind of take your time. Having just 3 is quite nice because then you remember it and it's almost like start, middle, end.
Yeah, I really like 3 because I have a really bad memory and I still wrote quite a lot of stuff down, which just helps me remember things. But yeah, like I found it really, really fun. Like not difficult or hard, just incredibly fun.
Oh, thank you. And Jason, would you like to say any nice words?
Well, considering I made a composition for my PhD of all things, like you are responsible for part of my PhD. If I get it. Other than that, I will blame you if I don't get it. I'm joking. I really enjoy Faybell and Phrasal, mainly because I like very absurd humour. I like going down the surreal path. I like the idea that you can be pushed in any direction. You can have Genghis Khan fighting a Cyberman. You can have a nasty horse and a orange Labrador picking up vomit. Why? I'm very glad I moved away from that. I pushed him. No, we're going to move on.
Oh, Bez, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
No, muted, which is great because then I can
take
over the stream.
I'm not sure.
But yeah, no, I absolutely. I'm a very creative person, except for when I've got nothing. So if I have something to kind of grasp onto, I do the same with my improvisation. If I either use dice or I start with something and then I move away from it, rather than trying to come something out of nothing.
No, I completely agree. I hate it when people are like, "Oh, you can improvise something." It's like, no, you need to give me some stuff to improvise with and new tools.
My favourite trick is starting with one note, or starting with one element. Oh yeah, that's my Twitter. Avoid the website at the moment. We're having a bit of problem getting the SSL certificates verified, which is weird. So the website is a bit down. It's fine. You can have to click advanced settings to go onto it. But I have a SoundCloud and a YouTube as well.
Do you have a SoundCloud and a YouTube?
I have a SoundCloud and a YouTube.
Can you put some links so I can?
I can't put the links down. I'll put them in the private chat for Bez. I think Bez will have them. But
just message me at some point. Yeah. I'll try and find them.
But Bez, you're still muted, by the way. Bez, you're muted.
I don't know if Bez is talking to someone else.
Okay, so it's jasonhodgson.com, as you can see there, or twitter.com/jasonhcomposer.
Yeah.
If you want to follow Bez, then they are Beckdazzle in most places in the internet.
I am indeed.
Yes.
And if you want to follow me, I've already explained my links down below. And
I'm actually going to try and find Musical now and put it on YouTube so you can share it, because it was very fun. I've really gone very dark. But yeah,
what are you called on SoundCloud, Jason? Are you just all one word, Jason Hodgson?
I will find it because I can't remember it. That's really bad of me, isn't it?
I've only found a Jason Hodgson in Canada. I don't think that's you.
If people want to reach out to Jason, then they can always reach out on Twitter, and Jason will be able to tell you the exact links to other places. But for now,
Jason-Hodgson.
Jason-Hodgson, thank you.
If you've enjoyed this, the next stream is going to be at 2 p.m. in a bit less than an hour, where we're going to be playing Yogi Stock Guru, which is... Where's the English version? Not this. That's the Korean version. But here we go. Here's the English one. So yeah, we're going to be playing Yogi, but 5 people are going to be companies contorting themselves, and 3 people are going to be investing in them, and everyone from the stream will be able to decide who to invest in and play along. Not with the actions, but you will be able to keep track of your own money. I'll explain how that all works. That's probably going to be the highlights of the weekend for the best streams. And I hope you've all got something to look forward to and hopes and ambitions, even in these difficult times. I'm looking forward to actually Yogi Stock Guru. What are you looking forward to, Bez?
I am scared, but looking forward to potentially hosting very small outside comedy gigs in my local parks, because it'd be nice to see people when some comedians live in northwest London. So and it'd just be such an easy way to organize things. You don't have to book a venue or anything. You don't have to worry about people buying drinks. It's very chill, it's very free, it's very inclusive. So I'm excited. What's that?
Very socially distanced.
It will be very socially distanced. Outside is much safer than inside, I think. So yeah, I love hanging out outside. I love being in the park. I've really enjoyed spending a lot of time outside. And obviously it's been good weather. So yeah, obviously it will be weather dependent. So that is a thing. I haven't got whatever they're called, but But
yeah, let's all hope that we can move towards more, whilst maintaining safety, kind of stay, have some social connections. And what are you looking forward to, Jason?
Well, I actually am looking forward to this afternoon because I've limbered up. And I've actually been quite reserved with my joints because I'm hypermobile, so I'm just ready for this afternoon.
That's cheating.
And you can tell us your next thing in a couple of hours.
Well,
so
you
there is only one thing left to do, which is to say bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye, and now it's time to go. Bye bye, bye bye, this is the goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye, thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye, this is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye, and now it's time to go. So you're not really going anywhere, are you? You're just kind of sitting down and then moving away. But anyway, bye bye.